안녕하십니까. 책 한 권으로 500번 읽어보기 도전하고 있는 꾸준한 영어 테드쌤입니다. 요즘 제가 이제 컨셉을 털보 선생님으로 한번 잡아보려고 수염을 기르는 중입니다. 그러니까 지금 기르는 동안은 조금 지저분할 수가 있어요. 조금 양해를 부탁드립니다. 깨끗하게 깔끔하게 길러서 멋진 털보 선생님 테드쌤으로 한번 저를 보여드릴 수 있도록 하겠습니다. 자, 오늘도 어제에 이어서 음원만 들으면서 저희가 따라하는 섀도우 리딩 한번 해보도록 하겠습니다. 자, 출발해 볼까요? Bunnicula Chapter 1 The Arrival. I shall never forget the first time I laid these now tired old eyes on our visitor. I've left home by the family with the admonition to take care of the house until they returned. That's something they always say to me when they go out. Take care of the house, Harold. You are the watchdog. I think it's their way of making up not taking me with them, as if I wanted to go anyway. You can't lie down at the movies and still see the screens. And people think you are being impolite if you fall asleep and start to snore or scratching yourself in public. No, thank you. I'd rather be stretched out on my favorite rug in front of a nice whistling radiator. But I digress. I was talking about that first night. Well, it was cold. The rain was pelting the windows. The wind was howling and the sound. It felt pretty good to be indoors. I was lying on the rug. My friend Chester was curled up on the brown velvet armchair, which years ago he staked out as his own. I saw that once again he'd covered the whole seat with cat hair, and I chuckled to myself, picturing the scene tomorrow. Next to grasshoppers, there was nothing that frightens Chester more than the vacuum cleaner. In the midst of this reverie, I heard a car pull into the driveway. I didn't even bother to get up and to see who it was. I knew it had to be my family, the Monroes. Since we just about time to be the movie was to be over. There they stood on the doorway, Toby and Pete and Mom and Dad and Monroes. There was flash of lightning, and in its glares, I noticed that Mr. Monroe was carrying a little a bundle with tiny glistening eyes. Pete and Toby bounded into the room, both talking at the top of their lungs. Toby shouted, "Put him over here, Dad." "Take your boots off, you're soaking wet," replied his mother, somewhat calmly, I thought, under the circumstances. "But, Mom, what about—" "First, stop dripping on the carpet." Would somebody like to take this?" asked Mr. Monroe, indicating the bundle with the eyes. "I'd like to remove my coat." "I will," Pete yelled. "No, I will," said Toby. "I found him. You dropped him. I will not. You too. Mom, Pete punched me." "I'll take him," said Mrs. Monroe. "Take off your coat this minute." But she became so involved in helping the boys out of their coats, she didn't take him at all. My tranquil evening had been destroyed, and no one had even said hello to me. I whimpered. "Guess what happened to me?" And then all over again, everyone started talking at once. At this point, I feel I must explain something. In our family, everyone treats everyone else with great respect of his or her intelligence. That goes for the animals as well as the people. Everything that happens to them is explained to us. It's never been just, "Good boy, Harold," or "Use the little box Chester at our house." Oh no. With us it's, "Hey Harold, Dad got a raise and now we're in a higher tax bracket," or "Come sit on the bed, Chester, and watch this Wild Kingdom show. Maybe you will see a relative," which shows you just how thoughtful they are. But after all, Mr. Monroe is a college professor and Mrs. Monroe is a lawyer, so we think of it as a rather special household. And we are therefore rather special house pets. So it wasn't at all surprising to me to take the time to explain the strange circumstances surrounding the arrival of a little bundle with glistening eyes now among us. It seems that they had arrived at the theater late, and rather than trip over the pit of the audience already seated, they decided to sit in the last row, which was empty. They tiptoed in and sat down very quietly so they wouldn't disturb anyone. Suddenly, Toby, who's the little one, sprang up from his chair and squealed and said he sat on something. Mr. Munro told him to stop making a fuss and move to another seat. And in an unusual display of independence, Toby said he wanted to see just what he had sat on. An usher came over to their row and to shush them. Mr. Munro borrowed his flashlight. What they found on Toby's chair was the little blanket bundle. It was now sitting on Mr. Munro's lap. They now unwrapped the blanket. Sitting in a shoebox filled with dirt. A piece of paper had been tied to his neck with a ribbon. There were words on the paper, but the Monroes weren't able to decipher them because of their totally unfamiliar language. I moved closer for a better look. Now, most people might call me a mongrel, but I have some pretty fancy bloodlines running through these veins, and Russian propaganda happens to be one of them. Because my family got around a lot, I was able to recognize the language as an obscure dialect of the Carpathian Mountain region. Roughly translated, it read, "Take good care of my baby." But I couldn't tell if it was a note from bereaved mother or a piece of Romanian shit. The little guy was shivering from fear and cold. It was decided that Mr. Monroe and the boys would make a house for him out of the old crate and some heavy-duty wire mesh from garage. For the night, the boys would make the bed for him in the shoebox. Toby and Pete ran outside to find the crate. Mrs. Monroe went to the kitchen to get some milk and lettuce. Mr. Monroe sat down, a dazed expression in his eyes, as if he were wondering how he became to sitting in his own living room with a red raincoat and with a strange bunny on his lap. I signaled to Chatter, and the two of us casually moved over to a corner of the room. We looked at each other. What do you think? I asked. I don't think a rabbit like milk, he answered. Chatter and I were unable to continue our conversation because a deafening crash had commanded our attention. Pete yelled from the hallway, "Ma, Toby broke the rabbit's house." "I didn't, I just dropped it. Peter won't let me carry it. It's too big, Toby's too little." "I'm not, you are too." "Okay, fellas," Mrs. Monroe called out as she entered with the milk and lettuce. "Let's try to get it in here with a little hysteria as possible. Please," under his breath. "That lettuce looks repulsive, but any milk rabbit, I get it. I certainly wasn't going to argue with him. I'm a worried man myself." At that moment, a crate arrived, barely standing and straining in two directions at once. "That's not fair. Harold sleeps in his room." Only sometimes, I thought, when I know he's got leftover sandwich in his drawer. Toby's a nice kid, don't get me wrong. But it doesn't hurt he shares his statue with me. It was, after all, one of those random parties in Toby's room that I first developed my taste for chocolate cake. And Toby, noting my preference, has kept me in chocolate cake ever since. Pete, on the other hand, it doesn't believe in sharing. And the only time I tried to sleep on his bed, he rolled on over me, and it pinned me by my ears. I couldn't move the rest of the night. I had to click the rest of the days. "You sat on him, you mean?" "I found him sleeping in my room." "You can keep smelling all Harold if you're in your room. Chatter to if you want to. But the rabbit is sleeping in my I knew it had changed his socks per week. Smelly indeed. Mr. Monroe spoke up. "I think the best place for the rabbit is right here in the living room on that table by the window. It's a light there. He gets lots of fresh air. Pete taller than I am. He'll be able to see the rabbit better." "Why?" Pete asked. "I don't want to go to sleep." Mrs. Monroe smiled a little sleepily at Pete. "Look, Ma, he's not drinking his milk." Chatter knocked me in the ribs. "Didn't I tell you?" he asked. Excuse me while I make myself available. Hey, said Toby, we gotta name him. Can that wait until tomorrow? Asked Mr. Monroe. The boys shouted in unison. No, we have to have a name right now. Name him right now. On those were the 3 most anxious days of my life. I couldn't sleep at all, worrying that they're really gonna call me Fluffy, as Mrs. Monroe had suggested. What about, oh say, Bun Bun? Uh-oh, there she goes again, I thought. Where does she get them? Yuck, we all said. Well then, how about Fluffy? She offered hopefully. Peter looked at his mother and with a smile. You never give up, do you, Ma? Meanwhile, Chester, who also been named Chester for short time, was rubbing against Mrs. Monroe's ankles and purring loudly. No, Chester, not now, pushing him aside. He wants to help us name him, don't you, Chester? Toby asked, as he scooped him on his arms. Chester shot me. Look, I could tell this was not what he had in mind. Come on, Harold, Toby called. We've got to help with him name too. I joined the family. Serious thinking began. We all peeled into the box. It was the first time I had really seen him. So, this is a rabbit, I thought. He sort of looks like a Chester. Only he's got longer hair, ear and a shorter teeth and a motor on his nose. Since we found him at the movies, why are we calling him Mr. Johnson? There was a moment of silence. Who's Mr. Johnson? Asked Toby. The guy owned the movie theater, Pete answered. No one seemed to like the idea. How about the prince? Said Mr. Monroe. Dad, said Toby, are you kidding? Well, I had a dog named the Prince once, he replied lamely. Prince, I thought, that's a silly name for a dog. We found him in a Dracula movie, let's call him Dracula, Toby said. That's a stupid name, said Pete. No, it's not. And anyway, I found him, so I should get to name him. Now, you're not gonna name him, are you? That's your favorite name. I will be traumatized if you do. Mrs. Monroe looked in wonder at Pete. Please, Mom, please, Dad, let's name him Dracula, cried Toby. Please, please, please. And at each please, he squeezed the Chester a little harder. Mrs. Monroe picked up the bowl of milk and moved toward the kitchen. Chester followed her every movement with his eyes, which now seemed to be popping out of his head. When she reached the kitchen door, she turned back and said, Let's not have any more argument. We will compromise. He's a bunny, and we found him at a Dracula movie. So we'll call him Bunnicula. Bunnicula? That should make everybody happy, including me. What about me? Muttered Chester. I won't be happy if her puts down that milk. Puts the milk down. Yeah, Ma. I think the name is just right. Pete shrugged. It's okay, but I get to feed him. Okay, I'm going to put the milk back in the fridge. Maybe he will drink it tomorrow. What about the Chester? Dropping the pet cat to the floor. Maybe he would like it. Chester made a beeline to Mrs. Monroe and looked up at her plaintively. Do you, Chester? You've already had your milk today. She reached down and patted Chester on his hand and walked into the kitchen. Chester didn't move. Okay, bedtime, said Mr. Monroe. Good night, Bunnicula, Toby said. Good night, Count Bunnicula, Pete said sarcastically, in what I took to be his attempt at a Transylvanian accent. I may be wrong, but I thought I saw a flicker of movement from the cage. Good night, Harold. Good night, Chester. I licked Toby good night. Good night, Smiley Harold. Good night, Don Chester. I drew on Pete's foot. Mom, Harold drew on my foot. Good night, Pete, Mrs. Monroe said with great finality as she came back into the living room, and then more calmly, Good night, Harold. Good night, Chester. Mr. and Mrs. Monroe went up the stairs together. You know, dear, Mr. Monroe said, that was very clever. But Nicola, I could never have thought of a name like that. Oh, I don't know, Robert. She smiled as she put her arm through his. I think Prince is a lovely name, too. The room was quiet. Chapter was still sitting by the closed kitchen door in the state of shock. Slowly he turned to me. I wish they had named him Fluffy, was he said.